fiber friends. Welcome to my monthly podcast called Butterfield, Alpacas, and the Fiber Arts. I have been missing from online for the last month. I know. Some craziness has been going on. Let's see. Let's get the admin out of the way. I am Tashia Butterfield, owner of Butterfield Alpaca Ranch, and I'm also an avid fiber enthusiast. I knit, crochet, spin, and love everything alpaca. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and RAVELRY. All those links are down in the description box. I also do other videos outside of this podcast related to alpaca ownership and the fiber. If that interests you, go check that out. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you know when new videos come out. And my podcast has lots of different segments like most podcasts do, but I will give you timestamps down in the description box where you can jump around to different sections. This podcast episode is going to be a little different than usual. I'm going to do things in a different order. I'll start off with the fiber arts, then move on to a store update, and end with a ranch update. Again, check out the timestamps if you want to skip around. So, for those of you who follow my channel, you know I've been missing, and let's see, it's a combination of like furnace issues at my house and the store. Disrupted my life a bit in the middle of winter. And actually, it was like right after Christmas it all started. Let's see, there's been some winter craziness at the ranch that needed my attention, and then some media coverage that has been happening, and I will cover those things later on in the podcast. For those of you interested in the Alpaca Life video series, again, that took a hit. I did not release any videos in January for that. So I will be ramping up my publication of Alpaca Life videos in February and March to catch up with my schedule. But the upcoming videos is going to include products for all micron levels, processing options at the mill, understanding yarn plies and weights, which I know is really important for those of you who have no fiber arts background and you're trying to learn what to make all this fiber into, and then blending alpaca with other fibers, and I've had that one specifically requested, so I will be covering all those topics in the coming weeks on the Alpaca Live video series. Whoo, okay, I think my intro was a lot quicker than usual. Yeah, this podcast is not going to be as long as others, I don't anticipate, because I don't have a whole lot to share. Certainly not with my knitting, crochet, spinning stuff. If I didn't have time to produce videos, I didn't have much time to do all that either, which was the case. But let's get into what I actually did accomplish. We'll start off with spinning. And the same project is on my wheel as I ended with last podcast, which is hand-dyed merino roving from Lori at Oceanwind Knits of Ontario, Canada. This was something I got in a fiber swap, and it's gorgeous. I really like working with it. It's the first time I'm working with merino. This is 100% merino, so that's really nice. But yeah, it has been on the wheel all this time, and I keep looking at it, wanting to get back to it. Like, it's sitting over there, that's why I'm looking over there. It's right over there. But yeah, I'll get back to it. I will say I do have an acquisition. I was going through all of my fiber stuff, or like my yarn stash, and this was sometime in November or December. Decided what I wanted to get rid of, and I brought it all to the store. And one of those things I saw sitting there for weeks and weeks was this bulky, chunky yarn. And the more I looked at it, I was like, okay, let's take a closer look at this. It is 2-ply. It has 99% wool, 1% nylon. All right, do you see the 1% nylon on there? This little, see if I could pick that out for you. I had it. Hold on. Well, okay, I'm not very good at this. Without getting some wool with it. Okay. Can you see that? That clear nylon that's wrapped around, very loosely spun roving, or top, I don't know, probably is top. So what I decided to do was remove the nylon and spin the wool. So that's an experiment in the future that I'm going to do, and for really inexpensive way to get some wool. So we'll see how that goes. I just plan on cutting the nylon as I go, and yeah, we'll see, because kind of hard to wind this big old thing. So we'll see how I go about doing that, but that's the idea. And this, it's like a lavender and aqua kind of color. I expect those colors to kind of be blended as I spin them, so it'll be interesting to see. But this, what's the weight of it here? So I can find that information. It seems, I mean, it's a skein of yarn, 200 grams, 7 ounces, 200 grams. So seriously, you know how much yarn I can get, like thinner weight yarn I can get with 7 ounces? That'll be very interesting. That's it for spinning. Let's move on to knitting. Okay, no finished objects in knitting, but I do have progress in 2 projects. One of them was that bicolored scarf that I talked about before, in which I was reusing yarn that I had ripped out of a previous project, and was trying to figure out, deciding on some kind of pattern to make this a lot nicer than what it was. Anyway, I think it was two episodes ago I talked about this more in depth. I talked about this last month when I showed you what I decided to do with it. So this is my progress so far. Let's see. Started over here. This is it. And I think I'm halfway through. It's kind of hard to tell, but the inside of the cakes are definitely empty. So I'm guessing about halfway. And I'm so enjoying this. I just need to keep at it, and I love it. I am writing the pattern as I go. I do have a couple of friends who are going to test knit this for me, and then I'll release it for those of you who'd like to try this out on your own. Okay, the other project, knitting project that I have was a cowl, a mystery cowl that I talked about in the last episode. And this is from Rose City Yarn Crawl, somewhere in, oh shoot, Oregon? I kind of forget. But the designer is Romy Hill. Romy? I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure how to say her name. So let's see, we're in the 3rd week of the cowl, and spoilers for those of you who might be doing the cowl, you might want to skip ahead. This is the last thing I'll talk about knitting, so skip ahead to crochet if you don't want to see this. All right, so the 3rd clue has come out, but I'm still on the 2nd clue. All right, this striped part was clue 1, and then, so what it is, you know, we made a triangle and did an I-cord bind off down here on this end, and then clue 2 had us pick up stitches along the other 2 sides of the triangle, and don't want things to fall off, and make sure I'm showing you the right side, the correct side. I am. Okay. So from here up is the part of clue 2 that I have completed. And I think I'm about Well, let's see. Yesterday I just finished the first chart, and there's a second chart, but the second chart is like probably twice as many rows. So I'm guessing I'm about a third of the way through. One more chart to go. Like I said, is probably up to here or so. And then the third clue, I've taken a look at it, and there is a RAVELRY page for this, and there's a couple different threads. There's a thread that is just a discussion, no spoilers, for people who just want to see it develop in their own hands. And then there's a thread with spoilers, and I checked that out. I don't mind seeing what's coming next. So I've seen the progress of clue 3, and in clue 3 we get to integrate, well darn, that came off, our second color, which I'm really excited. Here, I'll show this. Okay, I thought it was gonna hit a key and knock something off. Okay, it didn't. Anyway, this is my other skein, and this is the one I'm really excited about. This one contains alpaca. It's a subtle variegated purple, blue, anyway, purples and blues. I think some kind of red is in here too. But it's like a 2-ply where 1-ply is a consistent dark color, like some kind of gray, I think. And it's the other ply where the color changes. So that comes into play in the third clue. And I'm really excited to see that come into play here and see these. I'm really enjoying this pattern because I get to use stitches that I've never used before. This stuff in here, stitches I've never done. Coming up, I think there's some lace stitches that I have not done either. Anyway, it's a learning experience. I'm really, really enjoying it. The link to that is all going to be down in the description box if you want to see it. And I don't know, at some point you'd think the pattern would be available to purchase later on. We'll just have to see. Okay, on to crochet. Very little to say about crochet because the Snowflake project that I talked about in the last podcast, which was supposed to be a window display here in the store. Making a bunch of snowflakes, which the snowflakes are all done now. The next step was to stiffen them with some type of glue or something. Some people did make some suggestions. Not hodgepodge. Oh, I forget what it's called. But it's another type of glue on the market to be able to flatten these out, and then I would hang them up in the window in some fashion. Well, as you can see, they're not hardened, flattened in any kind of way, and they're not in the windows. And at this point, we're in February, and I'm like, do I want to do that? Right now, there's nothing in the windows but lights. And it may just stay that way. I don't even know what I'm going to do in March. I don't know if I want snowflakes in the windows in March, because in March, you're like, you really, really want winter to be over. You don't want to be reminded that it's still cold outside. You're thinking more spring. In which case, at this point, I have no idea what I'm going to do in the window for spring. But I'm thinking it should not be snowflakes for March. Okay, so that's crochet. This month, I anticipate accomplishing more. I do. I have a lot of other things to do. Let's see, March 2nd, I am teaching. Ooh, let me go get the brochure for that. This was not even in my notes. I totally forgot to include it, but it is related to projects I have to do this month. So the Shepherd's Mill, which is my local mill that I work with, they are celebrating their 15th anniversary being in business. So they're putting on a street fair the weekend of their actual 15th anniversary from when they very first opened. It is going to be March 2nd, 9 to 5 in downtown Phillipsburg, Kansas. You can go to the Shepherd's Mill website, which is kansasfiber.com. For more information about this, I don't know what tab it's under, events or something. But there's going to be llamas and alpacas there. There's workshops. There's all-day workshops and morning, afternoon workshops. I am teaching 2 workshops. The morning one, Choosing Yarn 101, all little details about, you know, different fiber types and yarn weights and how to make substitutions, how to make the best pairing of a pattern with your yarn, how to really know your yarn and make it or choose it for the best use. So that's what it's all about. Understanding labels, gauge, and best uses for yarns. You'll try several different yarns in gauge swatches. So we'll talk about all that. And then, this is what triggered my memory. The afternoon workshop is a brioche cowl. So I have to create the brioche sample, which I have in mind a design for the cowl using both single color and double color different parts. So if you're interested in these, like I said, check out their website. Here's like the whole schedule of vendors and all that kind of stuff. All this should be on the website. Anything else? Anything else? Oh, education tab, not events tab, under the education tab on their website. This is on the street in downtown Phillipsburg. If the weather is bad, we will end up at the county fairgrounds. All right, so that's that. And that is all for the fiber arts. Let's talk about the store updates. Yes, let's see how short this is going to be. Looking at the time of the video so far. Okay, store updates. Big update, because in the last video or last episode, I talked about closing down the Chicago store and that all that leftover product was coming here. So not only the product, but all the panels and fixtures and all the stuff that we used there in that location all came here. So I was able to, one, create this island display. It's a triangle display, and it mostly has socks on it. Gobs and gobs of socks. Some shoe inserts, some gloves. There's a few things like tights and leg warmers. But yeah, so that was new because these panels were over in the Chicago store. The other panels that came, I was able to put behind the checkout counter, and it included all these photos were also in the Chicago store, because since we did not staff that one ourselves, I had to find a way to communicate my story and to let customers know this is a real place with real animals and we create real products. So that's where all these photos came from, and I just was able to put them here. The alpaca crossing sign I already had. It just hadn't been up anywhere. And of course the alpaca t-shirt, that ended up there because the main wall of alpaca products got full of hats, scarves, toys, and garments. The whole section of hats, this whole section is hats. Okay, the only exception I see is a few headbands, but that's all hats. This other one is majority scarves with some toys and things at the bottom. And then this third section, again, more toys. We have the coasters, the pot holders, and then garments. Garments now we have on the wall as well as over by the window. Still have the energy mats here, And also what came from the Chicago store is this shelf that I was able to have a display above the product, and another picture, as you can see. And that really finished off the space really nicely. More rugs came back. I was able to expand that selection. And that was pretty much it. So I was working like crazy over a number of days to get all this up and out and looking good. It took me about 3 days because I had to reprice stuff. I had to put them in the system that I use for my Alma store. It felt like a long process. So yeah, after 3 days, everything was up and good to go. Now, I was on a deadline to finish this because the local TV station was coming to do a story on me. So the reporter was coming, and I wanted the store to look really good and full. And part of the story was the 4-H club that I started a couple of years ago related to the fiber arts. So he came to interview the girls and me, kind of, you know, that activity related to the store. As well as going out to the ranch and filming some of the animals. So the full story of this, the link is down in the description box if you want to go see the video. I haven't asked yet, but I don't think I have permission to download the video and upload it here on its own. Anyway, it turned out to be a really nice story. Very nice story. And then this story was being released on a Wednesday, which was just a couple of days ago from filming this. And the reporter Brian invited me up to the morning talk show that they do. That's when the segment would air first, and then they would interview me and ask more questions, and I was able to bring product and talk about that. So the pre-recorded segment and the live interview all together was like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I was like talk about exposure. It was like a really big deal. So again, the full 10 minutes is down in the description box. Moving on to ranch news, ranch update. I put this at the end on purpose. Because I figured those of you who sit through all of this are really part of the Butterfield Alpaca Ranch family, and so you can be privy to this information. Although this episode being like way shorter than my usual episodes doesn't really help me in that regard, but unfortunately, Thor is still in jail. If you watch the last episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I have returned Thor to his pasture 7 times over the last number of weeks. Each time he is finding a different place to get out. The most recent time he got out was in a section of fence very far from where he originally was getting out by the barn. It's a totally different area of his pasture, and it's where there was a very old fence. And without giving you all the long explanation, in order to properly fix this fence, it needs to be completely rebuilt. It being the middle of winter and the ground being frozen, it makes that a challenge to put in new posts and string new wire. The temperatures have been very cold. A lot of you are familiar with that Arctic blast, chill, polar vortex thing that happened. And again, we're not in a polar vortex, but the temps are in the 20s, like every day right now for quite a while. And it's, meteorologists locally have predicted long-term, like through February to be very cold. So I don't anticipate the opportunity to fix that fence. My other option is to geld him, which at this moment I am considering most seriously, because I honestly can't fix the fence right now. The fence that he most recently found to get through. I can't fix it right now. So the other option is to fix him. Make it so that those hormones are no longer in his system and he no longer has the drive to get through the fence to girls. Because that's it's hormonally driven. The whole thing is hormonally driven. He wants to get to the girls, and so is Wild Oats. If he no longer has those hormones telling him to do that, then he will stay put. So with that, once an alpaca is gelded, it takes about 2 weeks for the hormones to fully leave their system. So at this point, that is my best option. And with that means I can't have any babies from him. I can't get any babies from him. Which, I don't know, changes his role in my herd. And that's a challenge for me. That's a sad thing for me. His mother was my most favorite alpaca ever. Ever, 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 ever. Her name is Cedra. I've talked about her before. The video I made on handling the loss of an alpaca, I talk about her story, and I have a video in there of her. So she died when Thor was 4 months old. And he is so much like her. I mean, right now he's a pain in the butt because he's got this hormonal stuff happening. When he is in his pasture in the barn with his friends, not thinking about girls, he is the sweetest, sweetest guy. And I wanted that legacy to continue. I have bred him in the past, have not gotten a cria. Doesn't mean it was his fault. I can't really say at the moment. But that means that that legacy ends right here. And that has been the struggle for me. But unfortunately, I do believe it's the best choice. So in the next episode, I will let you know what happened. So in the meantime, he is in his stall, in jail. But you know what? He gets hay, he gets alfalfa, he gets water. He's in the company of the alpacas that he really wants to be near at the moment. It's his own fault he's in there. And with the weather like it is, he needs to be in a safe place. I need to know that he is in a safe place and he's not stuck outside somewhere with his ears getting frostbit or whatever. Like, that is worse. I had someone leave a comment about Thor being in jail. I hope he gets out. And I'm like, yeah, I hope he gets out too. I don't want him in there. Why would I want him in there? I don't. It's extra work for me. It's extra stress for him. Like, there's no good that comes from him staying in there. But for right now, it's for his safety. His and everybody else. So he's in there until I have to get the solution to this. And yeah, so that's that. All right, I am going to end this episode with some news that I really debated about telling you. In the last couple weeks, I have lost 2 more alpacas. The reason I didn't want to tell you is because I don't want to be known as the alpaca owner who keeps having alpacas die on her. If you watched my channel over the last couple of years, seems to be reoccurring. And I want to say up front, it's not normal. Like, if you were to get into alpacas, yes, they do die, but not as frequently as my videos make it seem to be. So I just want to say that. I've said before, I have a lot of older animals, and that is one of the reasons that there seems to be a lot of death going on. But I also have a lot of alpacas. So the chance of something happening, a loss in my herd, is greater, just statistically. Okay, so the first one that I lost, not the first to die, but the first I'm going to tell you about, is Star. And I'm chalking it up to old age. Even though I did give him meds for a condition in the end, I don't think that's what he actually died from. I think he died from old age. I got him a number of years ago from people who got him at an auction, and when they got him, they knew him as Old Man. He's always been known as Old Man. I don't know his age, but people I got him from knew he was old. And the condition of his body showed, yes, that he was old. Last year at shearing time, once he was sheared, his body condition was pretty poor. And he had a leg injury. So I created a space for him in the girls' barn. He had his own little suite. He was gelded already, so it wasn't an issue with him being in there. So he had his own suite in the barn where he had quite a bit of space inside. It wasn't a little stall, like Thor's in a 10 by 10 stall right now. Star had a lot more space than that. He had indoor space to move around, and he had outdoor space under the lean-to and a little bit extending out the lean-to. So I call it his suite. So, and the idea with that was, one, he had an injury on his leg. I wanted to give him a chance to heal. And so I restricted the space that he had to move in, helping to give that leg a chance to heal. But also he was pretty skinny, and by putting him in his own space, I could feed him special feed, extra alfalfa, extra this and that to help his body score, his condition come up, which did happen. But I could feed all that without other alpacas stealing from him or having him fight for it, that kind of thing. It was just his, and he could eat it at his own pace and get it all, right? So that was the idea with that. So that was last May. So, and here we are. Let's see, his death happened in January. So he was in there for a while. And like I said, in the end, I think it was just old age. I've seen enough deaths now to know when the death is by an illness or by natural causes. This one was natural causes. Nonetheless, when alpacas do die of natural causes, it can be drawn out, like the end can be really drawn out. They can take a long time to finally go. So I did have the vet come out and put him down. Like he was at the point of no recovery and just suffering till the end. That's not okay with me. So the vet came and put him down. Around this same time, my alpaca Joy did come down with something. There was a day in which she was not able to get up. Not that she didn't want to get up, but like her legs weren't working. She wanted to be up, but her legs just wouldn't do what she wanted them to do. What made this hard was that Joy was my first alpaca. She was the reason she wasn't the reason I got into this, but she was my first. And she was a sweetheart. She was, I don't know, almost everything about her was just so perfect. I don't know what to say. You know, she led well in a halter. She was really kind. She let you pet her, like stroke her neck, which is not a natural thing for alpacas, but she was trusting of me. And I really appreciated that. And there have been times when like she hasn't felt well and that kind of thing. And she's leaned on me and like, we had a bond, you know, maybe I could just say it like that. We had a bond. And so it was hard to see her sick. I did anyway, I messaged an alpaca vet about her condition, and that vet gave me her best guess, which at the time I agreed with. And so I contacted my local vet and told them the situation and what was recommended to me, and they gave me all the meds. The treatment required 2 shots a day and 2 oral meds, like large quantity oral meds. So I faithfully did that, and obviously, since you already know, she did not make it. And like I said before, I've seen a number of alpaca deaths that some of them I have not been there for in the end, to be there at the very end. Some of them, like Sophie, I've mentioned before, I kind of had a sense that, not that she would go, but that I knew, I'll say it this way, I knew that she could go at any moment. And there was one day in which that came to mind, and I talked to her, told her I appreciated her being part of my herd and blah, blah, blah. That was the last time I saw her, because the next day she found her gone. So, sometimes I really get to say goodbye, and there have been other times, no. I'm a person, I would rather say goodbye. They're a living being, I'm a living being. We've been together for years, in most cases, for years. And it helps me to talk to them. And alpacas are really intelligent. If you work with them, then you understand. It's like they know what I'm saying. And like they know their names, they know right from wrong, they know. They're really intelligent. So I appreciate being able to talk to them in this way, and that at the end of their life, I really get to say goodbye. In Joy's case, I went one time to give her her meds, and she was in her stall, and her body was in the position that, like I said, I've seen enough times, I know it's the end. And it was not expected. Like, I knew she was sick, but she was getting treatment, and I thought she was recovering. So I go that one time, and her body's in that position. I'm like, that's it. There's no coming back. My uncle was with me at that time. And I'm really grateful for him, because he went ahead and did all the chores and took care of all the animals. And I was able to be there with her at the very end. Laid down on the straw and talked to her. And that was very meaningful for me. Like I said, she was my first. And she was only 13 when this happened. I thought I had years still with her. So it was really unexpected. Unlike Star, I knew he was older, and he's had signs of old age for a while, and no surprise, no shock. Her, I thought I had more time, but I didn't. So I called the vet that day, because I knew she was going. And I said, I want a necropsy done. A necropsy is the animal version of an autopsy. I said, I want to know for sure what has happened here. So we did get the results back on that. And it was some fluke parasite that I could not have prevented. And the treatment for has a low success rate. And that treatment is based on horses. Anyway, so like I said, a fluke thing. I could not have prevented it, and I didn't know about it. I couldn't treat it. If I did know about it and treated it, it still might not have worked. It is reassuring to know that I did everything that I could. But that is it. I really, really, really hope we don't have any more bad news to share. I told you that reporter came out to do the story at the ranch. Joy was, in the video you can see her, she's down in the position where she wasn't getting up. And she's featured in that video like face straight on. So that was a good way to be able to remember her, that she got featured in that piece. But I don't know, when I first saw it, it was hard because they're like, no, she's there and she's sick and there's like 2 days left of her life. And so that was hard. But anyway, I really hope I have nothing bad to tell you, that I only have good things to tell you, fun things to share with you. I hope the weather cooperates and I can get out and get some footage to show you of them playing and all that stuff. Oliver is really growing. He's getting so tall. So, yes, maybe in the next episode I can focus more on good, happy things with the animals. Like I said, I hope the weather cooperates and I can bring you some good things. Okay. Let's see, if you have not subscribed already to my channel, please do so. I will be publishing a lot of videos. Hopefully I can catch up with all my videos over the next few weeks. And if you hit that notification bell, YouTube will let you know when a new one comes out, because I can't even say what the schedule is. If you appreciate what I do, consider buying me a coffee on my Ko-fi page. The link to that is down in the description box. And if you know of others who would appreciate a podcast about alpacas and the fiber arts, go ahead and share it. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you on the next video.